Welcome back to Millside, a truly rural glamping experience. My name is Rachel Cullis-Dorset and today I'll be presenting session 2 of 3 on the power of PR. So can you do your own PR? To most SMEs, PR is an absolute luxury that few can afford. But what options are there out there and what can you actually do yourself? So public relations in the granular sense is achieving third-party advocacy. This isn't you saying your business is great, but it's somebody else saying your business is great. And it's therefore much more believable, it's much more trustworthy, and actually it brings much better customer loyalty. So third-party advocates are press and media, reviewers, bloggers, influencers, and in fact it's anybody who has anything to do with your business. Anybody who has any association with your business is a potential advocate, and anyone with a platform to communicate independently. And crucially, they are not being paid for their advocacy. These are their own independent thoughts, and this is what we want to harness for your business. So now I'm going to give you some practical hints and tips on how to manage your own public relations campaign to generate more awareness for your business. So PR strategy is a combination of two things, and that is your vision and your values and defining who your customers actually are. And your vision and values really sets the tone for your business. It really harnesses what's different about your business, what your USPs are, and that is your unique selling points, the things that make you different as a business. So what do you want to be as a business? It's really important that you spend some time thinking about this and really working this out with everyone in your business. Everyone will have a view on this, but really it's about where you want to be and how you communicate these unique selling points that really harnesses the power of PR. And then deciding what sort of tone of voice you want to deliver these messages in. So think about these messages, and my advice is just think 2 or 3 key messages and make them consistent. Make them consistent across everything that you put out externally, and let your staff also know what these key messages are, because they really need to communicate them to your staff. You won't be there all the time, and your staff need to understand what it is that makes you unique as a business and why your customers should keep coming back to you. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about media relations and how we harness media relations as a really powerful form of PR and raising awareness for your business. So the most important thing here is to spend some time doing your research, to really look at which publications there are out there that might be of benefit to your business in generating interest from potential customers. So spend a little bit of time here thinking about who your customers are and where you can reach them. For example, if you're a local angling business, then there is absolutely no point at all working with publications who appeal to young women. So think about where your customers might be, what they're reading, and spend a little bit of time here doing some research. So make a list of publications, read them, spend some time getting to know these publications, look at their websites. A lot of publications now are online as well as in print. So spend a little bit of time researching who you think are the best publications to really throw a light on your business. And most importantly, when you've done that, identify the journalists themselves who you want to target and build relationships with. It isn't just about defining the publications, but it's finding the right journalist as well. Every journalist has a different set of interests and they prefer writing about a different set of topics. So it's really worth spending some time here and just looking at the bylines on the publications themselves, finding the journalists who you think could be of most use to you. So what makes a really good news story? Unless you are a trained journalist yourself, news can be really difficult to determine, and journalists only trade in news. They want genuine news. So there are 3 guiding principles to remember here when you're trying to define a news story or you're trying to sell a news story. And that is, the story must be accurate. It can't be made up. Journalists will need to back up their sources and they need an accurate story. It must have authenticity. It must say something about your business which is authentic to you. And thirdly, it must be of interest to their readers. So these are the 3 things to remember before contacting a journalist. So I've got a couple of case studies to talk to you about, and 2 businesses who are quite similar but who approach their PR in completely different ways. So the first case study is a company called OMG Matcha Tea, and the MD is a lady called Catherine Swift. And she started her company a decade ago in reaction to her mother's unfortunate battle with cancer. She wanted to support her mum's recovery, and she did some research into what she could do to give her mum all of the goodness that she needs. And she discovered that actually a diet rich in antioxidants was going to be the best thing to support her mum. She actually invested in some groundbreaking research with her local university, and then went out and sourced an ingredient which was the highest grade matcha tea from Japan, and she built her own business out of it. So this was born from her desire to help her mum recover from cancer, and she's built a business around it. And she used this story for her publicity and for her public relations to really communicate to the press and to all her potential customers what her vision and her values was. She told her story in the national press, it was all over the local press, and she was even invited onto Dragon's Den. So just have a think about what is different about your company. What can you communicate which authentically describes what your vision and your values are about your company? What's your personal story? So the second case study is another tea company, and this is Andrew Gadsden, who blends tea in a factory in Portsmouth. So he created the world's largest tea bag. So he unveiled it on board the HMS Warrior in Portsmouth. It was a relatively low-cost activity which secured him local attention and radio coverage, television coverage. He got pieces in all the local papers, and he managed to raise awareness about his company and appeal to all those local customers who didn't know he existed until he did this PR activity. So you can see that also you can create a news story which will be of interest to local journalists. Think about how that links to your own business and what it might communicate about your business. So some examples of some really good news stories to do with the hospitality industry might be that you've changed your menu and you're using local suppliers. It might be that you're doing a particular event to raise money for a local charity, or you're supporting something that's external to your business, but your business is really there at the heart of that initiative. It could be that one of your members of your team is doing something to raise money or something, or has maybe won an award within the industry, or your restaurant has won an award. These are all the things that are great plaudits to shout about, and really gives you the edge over your competition and communicates the differences about your business and why customers should support you. So when we talk about the power of PR, it's really worth pointing out that not all PR is good PR. As a service-based industry, how you operate in front of your staff is really important. And remember, everybody now is a reviewer. Everybody has an online platform they can go to where people can read reviews about your business. So for example, treat your staff how you would want to be treated, because your customers will see all of that, and you don't want that playing out in any reviews, because that might have a detrimental effect on your business. So making friends with journalists and building up a media list of your own contacts is going to be really important for you, and a really worthwhile thing to do, because you'll be building contacts which should hopefully last you the lifetime of your business. Have something which is going to be of genuine interest to the readers of those publications, and really think about what the news hook is going to be. That is really the most important thing to do when trying to get editorial coverage with a newspaper. And remember, this isn't paid advertising. This isn't something you're paying for. This is third-party advocacy. It's editorial. It's somebody else saying that your business is worth a look at, and that means an awful lot to your customers and to you as a business. So think about things that the story that you have might tap into. What's the current news agenda? Is there anything that you can talk about that relates to your business? It could be an amazing environmental initiative that you have. It could be an amazing achievement from one of your staff that you want to talk about that would be of interest to the readers of the particular publications that you've identified. And think about all the different areas within that publication that might be able to give you some coverage for your business. It's not just about the editorial news pages. There could be review pages, for example. So there could be one or two journalists at the publication that you would want to make friends with. Can you send your product to them to review? Can you invite them into your business to come and see you and give a review? So it's not just about the news as well. There could be feature opportunities as well. Perhaps perhaps a profile on you as a business owner, perhaps a profile on some initiative that you're running in your business right now that is newsworthy and could be of interest to those readers, that would make a really nice feature. So think about all the different opportunities. But also it's important to say, when we're talking about journalists, pick your moment. Don't assume that the journalist is going to come back to you right there and then immediately. There are very few journalists around these days. They're all time poor and they're all tied to their desks. So they won't necessarily have time to come out and see you. But try and strike a relationship up with them on email or phone if you can. But think about, and it's worth really trying to find out when that publication's print deadline is, or their online deadline. Because when their deadlines are near, those journalists won't be around to talk to you. So it's worth trying to find out when that is and avoiding contacting them at that time. So remember to provide them with all the assets of the story, giving a journalist as much information as possible about the what, the why, the who, the where, and the when. So think about those questions that a journalist might ask you if they're in front of you, and try and preempt those questions and give that information to them on an email, in a press release, or in a phone conversation. Also supply them with some really nice images. There are very few stories now that run without images, because it's the images that really sell a story, particularly online. So think about some images that you can send with your story, and also think about packaging up some quotes from you or somebody else in the business who the story relates to, and give those quotes to the journalist as well. The more you can think about in advance, the more you can give the journalist, the better in terms of the success of having that story appear on that editorial page. And it would be absolutely criminal if you didn't give your website link. Not every journalist will use a website link for your own business, but most will these days. So it's really worth making sure that you've got that website link there, because a long tail link from that publication to your website will do an enormous amount of good for your own search engine optimization. It's really worthwhile, if you can, making sure that journalist knows which website and where to direct his readers to. So writing the perfect press release, if you're not well practiced at this, the best way to do it is think about an inverted pyramid. So have all your key information at the top of your press release, because a journalist, as I say, is very time poor. They're not going to have time to read right down to the bottom of a press release to find the key information. And in fact, they won't. They'll just put it to one side and that will be that. So as much information as you possibly can, the who, what, why, where, when, should all be at the top of your press release in this inverted pyramid style. Stick to the facts and go easy on the adjectives. So space is paramount. Journalists don't have a lot of language to use. They are really short on space in publications. So stick to the facts, less of the subjective language, just avoid it actually, and just make your sentences really short and snappy, short paragraphs, and really active and proactive language. Try and remember also, if you can, to get an attention-grabbing headline in there. Have some fun with this if it's a fun story. It doesn't always have to be serious. But the attention-grabbing headline will really get a journalist's attention. And if you're emailing them, then use this as a subject heading as well. It will really make sure that they open that email and have a look at it. Keep it topical and keep it newsworthy for a better chance of success. And don't forget to include your contact details and your website for a link as well. And a simple Word document is all you need for a press release. We don't need to have posh, designed, formatted copy. We don't need to embed photographs in the copy either. Just attach them as separate files. This is what journalists actually want. The simpler the better. It's all about the story. It's not necessarily how you present it. Doesn't need to look pretty. Just make the story of paramount importance and make sure that it ticks all the boxes in terms of, will that be of interest to that readership? So that's the end of session 2 of 3 on the power of PR. I hope you found that session interesting and useful.